Rimuru and Ultima goes to One Piece, Rimuru and Ultima x One Piece, by Veldanava-God. Chapter 23. The fall of the strongest. The intense clash between Rimuru, Ultima, and Whitebeard continued to shake the very foundation of Marineford. Each strike carried immense power, sending tremors through the air and ground as the titanic forces collided. Rimuru and Ultima, wielding the full strength of their advanced haki, fought with a synchronicity that only years of battle together could foster. Their movements were fluid, perfectly timed, as they took turns attacking Whitebeard from different angles. Despite his age and the toll of the war, Whitebeard stood firm. His Basento cleaved through the air with devastating might, while the ground beneath him quaked with every tremor he unleashed. "You've lasted longer than I thought, old man," Rimuru taunted, launching a barrage of armament haki-imbued punches toward Whitebeard. Whitebeard blocked the onslaught with his Basento, gritting his teeth as he swung the weapon in a massive arc, sending shockwaves rippling outward. The sheer force of the strike sent both Rimuru and Ultima flying back several meters, but they landed gracefully, ready for the next assault. Ultima wiped a trickle of blood from the corner of her mouth, her lips curling into a wild grin. "He's tough, I'll give him that. But he's slowing down." Rimuru nodded, his sharp gaze fixed on Whitebeard. "He's not the same as he was at the start of this fight. We've pushed him close to his limits." Whitebeard's chest heaved as he caught his breath, sweat dripping down his brow. His once unstoppable strength was beginning to falter, the wear and tear of countless battles evident in the way his body moved. Yet even in this state, his presence was nothing short of overwhelming. Advanced Conqueror's haki radiated from him in waves, a crushing pressure that brought even the most seasoned warriors to their knees. Marines and pirates alike collapsed, unconscious from the sheer weight of his will. "Shichibukai." Whitebeard's voice was a deep, rumbling growl as he leveled his gaze at Rimuru and Ultima. "You think you can defeat me just because I'm old? You don't understand what true power is." Rimuru's grin widened, his tone mocking. "Old man, you're strong, but this battle's already decided. You just don't know it yet." Whitebeard's eyes narrowed as he gripped his Basento tighter, muscles tensing in preparation for the next exchange. "I've heard those words before. From fools who didn't live long enough to regret them." Ultima stepped forward, her fists crackling with the energy of her advanced armament haki. "You're just another fool to add to that list, old man." And with that, the fight resumed. Rimuru and Ultima attacked from opposite sides, moving like shadows across the battlefield. Their speed was blinding, and their attacks were relentless, combining the brute force of Rimuru's strikes with the precision of Ultima's deadly blows. Whitebeard, though strained, fought back with the same indomitable will that had earned him the title of the world's strongest man. His Basento swung with earth-shattering might, and the ground trembled under his feet as he released tremor after tremor from his devil fruit ability. But even Whitebeard, with all his might, couldn't keep pace with the unrelenting duo. Rimuru's fists crashed against Whitebeard's guard with bone-breaking force, each strike reinforced with advanced armament haki. Ultima's attacks were more tactical, her observation haki allowing her to exploit the slightest openings in Whitebeard's defense. "He's weakening," Rimuru muttered as he dodged another tremor-infused strike that shattered the ground beneath him. "It's time to finish this." Ultima nodded, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Let's end this old man's reign once and for all." As they prepared for their final assault, a sudden scream from across the battlefield drew their attention. On the execution platform, Ace knelt before his brother, Luffy, who had collapsed from exhaustion. Marines and pirates clashed all around them, but the scene on the platform seemed to freeze in time as Akainu, the fearsome admiral, approached with a fist of molten magma. Rimuru's eyes narrowed. "Is he really?" Ultima's expression darkened. "That bastard Akainu." Before they could react, Akainu unleashed his magma fist toward Luffy. In an act of desperation, Ace threw himself in front of his brother, taking the full force of the attack. The scorching magma burned through Ace's body, the smell of sizzling flesh filling the air as Ace let out a blood-curdling scream of agony. "Ace!" Luffy's voice cracked as he watched his brother's body collapse in front of him, limp and lifeless. The silence that followed was deafening. Whitebeard, locked in battle with Rimuru and Ultima, froze as he witnessed the scene unfold. His eyes widened, and his heart sank as the realization of Ace's death hit him like a tidal wave. "Ace!" Whitebeard's voice trembled with anguish, his grip on his Basento faltering. The battlefield fell into a stunned silence, the air thick with the weight of Ace's death. For the first time in the battle, Whitebeard's resolve wavered. His conqueror's haki flickered, and the mighty legend himself looked defeated. Rimuru's eyes flashed with opportunity. Now, he muttered to Ultima. This is our chance. Ultima's grin turned predatory, her fists glowing with the dark energy of her armament haki. Let's finish this. Without a second's hesitation, Rimuru and Ultima rushed forward, their bodies moving as blurs as they closed the distance between them and Whitebeard. They channeled every ounce of their advanced haki into their next attacks, fists glowing with black energy as they struck Whitebeard with everything they had. Rimuru's punch connected first, slamming into Whitebeard's abdomen with a force that sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Ultima's strike followed, crashing into Whitebeard's ribs with enough power to crack bone. Whitebeard gasped, blood spurting from his mouth as he stumbled back. His knees buckled, and for the first time, the strongest man in the world was brought to his knees. Even then, Whitebeard refused to fall. His defiant gaze locked onto his attackers, his body trembling from the onslaught but his spirit unbroken. You think this is enough? Whitebeard growled, his voice hoarse but filled with unyielding resolve. I'll never fall to the likes of you. Ultima sneered. You're already dead, you just don't know it. With a final nod between them, Rimuru and Ultima raised their fists once more. Conqueror's haki flared around them as they delivered the finishing blow, their fists crashing down on Whitebeard's skull with a sickening crunch. Whitebeard's body slumped forward, his basento slipping from his grasp as his head rolled to the side. Blood pooled beneath him, and the battlefield was silent as the mighty Whitebeard fell. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Marines and pirates alike stared in stunned disbelief at the lifeless body of the world's strongest man. No one moved, no one spoke. The silence was deafening. Rimuru and Ultima stood over Whitebeard's corpse, their expressions unreadable. They had done it. They had killed the man who had once ruled the seas. Whitebeard is dead, Rimuru said softly, his voice carrying over the battlefield like a chilling wind. Ultima exhaled, wiping the blood from her knuckles. It's over. The era of Whitebeard is over. Slowly, the reality of Whitebeard's death began to sink in across the battlefield. The pirates, who had fought so valiantly for their captain, were overcome with grief. Some dropped their weapons, falling to their knees as tears streamed down their faces. Others screamed in anger and despair, their voices carrying through the chaos. Captain. No, he's gone. Whitebeard is gone. The Marines, on the other hand, stood in stunned silence. The strongest man in the world had fallen, and Marineford had been changed forever. As the battle continued to rage around them, Rimuru and Ultima turned their gaze toward the execution platform, where Luffy wept over Ace's body. Akainu loomed nearby, seemingly unfazed by the death of Whitebeard. Rimuru glanced at Ultima. There's still work to do. Ultima smirked. Shall we clean up the rest? Rimuru shook his head. Not yet. Let them finish. We've already claimed our victory. Together, Rimuru and Ultima turned away from Whitebeard's lifeless form and walked calmly back toward the marine lines. The battle was far from over, but they had already accomplished what they had set out to do. Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, was dead.